It is our pleasure to be joined by the head football coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, and he's looking a little slim and trim, lean and mean, dude. What's going on?
I don't know about lean and mean. It may be stress and the demands of the job, but have always worked out and stayed active wherever I've been. I'm trying to do a better job of eating. I don't want to say eating less, but smaller portions. And I can't have ice cream every single night at 10 o'clock. That may be my
That's
problem
my
too.
problem, man. I
I know.
I eat these little I don't know, the little single pint or whatever of Haagen-Dazs. It's a
Yeah.
nightly ritual. It's so bad.
Yeah, my wife was getting like the little like mini like cones, and I'd be like, "But they're small, they're tiny ones." So I'd eat like two or three at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and I realized that probably wasn't good for me as well. So I had a couple people comment on certain body parts, and they were looking a little flubby and things like that. So I'm just trying to do a better job of eat. I've always eaten healthy, but just smaller portions.
Body shamed into eating less. The tale is old as time with men, man. A
There's
tale
no
as
doubt.
old
But
as
it's your
time.
boys though, like when you're like your guys that tell you the truth. I'm like, dude, are they really? And then I'm looking at it and all that. So I gotta be better.
Oh, well, hey, Shane, you look great,
You look
pal.
great.
And we're always fired up to have for your annual visit here on the podcast. Now, a lot to talk about, man. Coming off a really what I think would be labeled as a really successful season in year two. Let's start here. For you as a head coach, right? How much different did it feel in year two compared to year one?
It was a lot different in the sense that you could anticipate things a little bit better. Not so much during the season, but just January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and then even during the season, you had a reference point to refer back to where, okay, I did this last August in day 7 of training camp, and it was not a good idea. Let's do differently this year. So that was better that you had something to refer back to, and you kind of anticipated what was coming and what was coming next as far as things on the agenda. But every year is different. Every team is different, but it was during the season very similar. But definitely, I feel like I had a better handle on it because it was my second time around, at least.
Well, you guys had a brutal start to the scheduling last year. On the road to Arkansas, who had been building on some momentum, and then Georgia, which what they've got going right now. That's really tough, and it almost felt like the outside was trying to rattle the cages a little bit, that he had lost two straight, and then you guys went on a nice little run.
Yeah, it was. It was a tough start. I mean, week 2 with a new quarterback and a lot of new faces. We're on the road at Arkansas, a tough place to play against a good team, and we dug ourselves in a hole and didn't play well. And then we came back and we stunk it up against Georgia at home the very next week. But it was game 3. It's a 12-game season. Told the team, like, the whole key for us, it'll be the travesty is not losing to Georgia. The travesty would be if we don't get better as the season goes on, and we're the same team when we play Clemson in week 12. And we did a good job of blocking out the outside noise and the criticism, and just went back to work. And that was kind of a testament to the team, their mentality and their work ethic, and went back to work. And then I think at that point we ran off. It was either 4 games or 5 games in a row that we won, and beat Kentucky and Texas A&M in the process, and just kept getting better and found a way to be playing our best football at the end of the season.
Boy, did you ever. Come on, man. How much fun was that, right? You get the win against Tennessee there at home. Watched a ton of that game. Y'all stadium looked like it was about to collapse because those people were going so crazy. And then the win at Clemson, it doesn't get much better than that 1-2 punch at the end of the year that y'all had.
No, it was unbelievable, and you nailed it. It was so much fun. I mean, it was what you do it for, and it was awesome. And just so happy for our fans, because we had stunk it up the week before against Florida down in Gainesville. We're coming back home. Nobody in the world thinks we can even keep it close against Tennessee, much less win the football game. And then we go out there and play like we did. That was an awesome night. Happy for our fans. But then human nature, when you have a win like that, is to have a letdown because everybody's telling you how great you are, but we're playing our rival on the road. So you're automatically going to be motivated because it's your rival. But I was really proud of the fact, I didn't like this, but I was proud of the fact in that game against Clemson, we went down 14-0 early in the game. Threw a pick six, we're down 7-0, and they scored again. It's 14-0. Would have been very easy for the average team to just say, okay, well, we did it. We were good last week against Tennessee. It's not quite our day, but we battled back from a 14-0 deficit and won that one. And in this state, that rivalry is huge and means so much to our fans. So to win that game against Clemson was awesome and a great way to finish the regular season those 2 weeks.
It's hard to win, any week, much less whenever you got back-to-back, one on the road against top 10 teams. But I know coaches. I got to ask, were you able to enjoy that? Or whenever you see your team play the way they did, does it make the previous weeks even more painful?
No, I enjoyed the heck out of it. Certainly it's painful because you sit there and say, man, why did we not do that last week against Florida or 3 weeks ago against Missouri or whoever, but that's in the past and we learned from it. And it was more for me, Teddy, just proud of the fact that we got back to work. We never pulled apart as a team. We dealt with adversity. We got stronger because of it. And we got better as the season went on is the way that the way that I've looked at it.
How much do those types of wins help recruiting and help kind of build the program, right? Help the investment from the fans and the excitement. Like how important are those types of wins like you had against Tennessee and Clemson at the end of the year?
Huge. I don't think you can put a value on it, to be honest with you. I mean, it was for so many reasons. One, we had so many recruits at that game against Tennessee, and the environment in that stadium, you're right. I mean, it was unbelievable that night. So to have recruits sitting in the stands and to see that environment and to see the way that we played and the passion in our stadium, that was awesome. And then the following week, obviously to go on the road at Clemson. I mean, there's a lot of recruits that Clemson had at that game that were recruiting as well. And so whether you were in person or whether you were just watching that on television, I think it made a great statement about us as a program and then kind of validated what we've been, I don't want to say selling, but telling these young men that we're recruiting about what we're doing in this program and what we're about and where we're going. It certainly validated it where it solidified things with a lot of guys that we were recruiting, and it opened up the eyes of, I think, a lot of people that maybe weren't considering us as seriously at the beginning of the process.
Yeah. And I got to imagine going into year 3, there's a lot of roster turnover now anyways, but from when you got there and, finding some quality guys, I'm sure in the transfer portal and through some recruiting, like this third year is kind of where, the culture starts to kick in and guys that have been there for several years now start to take some leadership roles. Have you noticed a difference in the way your team just kind of conducts their day to day?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. There's a better understanding of what we expect. Yesterday was our first day of spring practice, and I've been a part of some programs and some teams where you finish day one and you go home and you're like, and I don't know if we're going to win a game this season. And not that we're all of a sudden going to, win the national championship. I'm not saying that, but there's an understanding of how we want to practice and how we want to do things. And the things that we were having to coach year one, we didn't have to coach it as much yesterday. But every year is different and you don't assume anything. And you got so many new faces each and every season. You're right about that. But just the day-to-day stuff, you're not dealing with just as much just BS really, from your team. It's a mature group. They're workmanlike. They handle their business and that's been fun. And then certainly from a leadership standpoint, you're right. I mean, I had the guys the other day stand up in a team meeting, the guys that were here when I first got hired in December of 2020, and there's not that many left, believe it or not. I mean, they've either, some have transferred, some have left early for the NFL, some have graduated, whatever it might be. So it's the bulk of the team is guys that we brought in. But then you've got guys that are, have been around this program that have taken on more leadership roles. You got guys like Spencer Rattler, who's been here a year, but has taken on much more of a leadership role this season as well. And that's been cool to see.
Okay. I feel like when you take a job, and we talked to you about this when you took the South Carolina job, like you've got this picture in your head of like what your football program's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When you think about when you took the job and maybe what you were seeing in your head and where the program is at now, like where are you at in that process? Like how do you feel about the progress of the program and maybe what's the next step?
Yeah, I think certainly feel like we're on track. If, I got hired, this was a 2-win team that hadn't been to a bowl game in a few years. And now we've been to back-to-back bowl games and we won 7 games my first year, 8 games our second year. We accomplished a lot of firsts last season. So we're certainly proud of what we've done, proud of the progress that we've made. Definitely on track. I don't really look at, I didn't, when I got hired, Gabe, like I didn't look at it, okay, year 1, I want to do this, year 2, I want to do this. I know it's cliche, but I very much was just focused on, let's try and get better today. And tomorrow, let's get better today as you go on and on and on. And then just kind of look up and see where we are. And going back to Teddy's question, I mean, that's kind of how we approach the season, just blinders on and just head down and just go. But certainly I feel like we're on track. We're recruiting at a high level right now, better than we have here at South Carolina in a long time. We just got to continue to recruit well, continue to develop the people in our program. And in regards to how I want this program to look and what I want it to be about, we're certainly well on our way and have made a lot of positive steps in the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated with the new, obviously for us, it's a huge deal, not as big for you guys, but now that we kind of know the layout, Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC in the following season, what is it going to be like for you guys? Do you think it's going to be an advantage? Just kind of the way that they're I don't know that anything's defined, but the way that they're saying the league may unfold where, you end up going to everywhere in 4 years, both home and away. And it's a little more true of a cycle than what you're in right now with the divisions.
Yeah, no, it's huge for you guys. It's huge for us. I mean, we're already sitting there playing 8 SEC games a year plus Clemson, who's what they've done speaks for itself. And now we're sitting around talking about playing 9 SEC games plus Clemson and then the 2 other out of conference games. So it's a huge deal for everybody involved and exciting. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that 2024. That in 2024, we're going to be playing probably Oklahoma or Texas. And I may be coming out to Norman, you guys may be coming here, and then the following year, vice versa. So it's exciting and I love it. I do. I mean, the SEC is awesome and the passion and Saturdays in the SEC, there's nothing like it. So to be able to bring in 2 new storied programs like OU and Texas is awesome and challenging. And you're in the wrong place if you don't want to compete against the best. This probably ain't the place for you because it's going to be that way week in, week out. But it's exciting to see what they've kind of talked about, if it's a 9-game schedule or 8-game schedule or whatever it may be. But I do think that's great that everybody gets to play everybody. I mean, I was reading the other day that since Texas A&M's been in the SEC, the University of Georgia has never played in College Station. And that's crazy to me, as long as Texas A&M's been in the SEC, it seems. So, for the players on our team, for me to be able to tell a guy that I recruit that, look, if you stay 4 years, you're going to get to play in Austin, Texas, Norman, Oklahoma, Gainesville, Florida, Baton Rouge. I think that's another great recruiting tool for the young men that we're recruiting, not just here, but everywhere in the SEC.
Now, I know that you won't tell me if you know or not, but is it going to be the 3 permanent and then the 6 rotating? Tell us, Shane. Tell us.
You guys are my guys, and I've known you long enough. I wish I knew the truth. Honest to God truth, we discussed if it was the different scenarios last spring at our league meetings in Destin. We did discuss, all right, the different scenarios. If it's an 8-game deal, here's what it looks like. And if it's a 9-game schedule, here's what it would look like. And that was in May of last year. and I have not had a single conversation about scheduling with anyone in the SEC or my bosses at Carolina since then. So I did see what was reported with the 9 games and all that a couple of weeks ago, but I don't have any updated info, so I know about as much as you guys do.
Well, what do you think about the rule changes? Hopefully you know about that, because there's I know you do, but
We
there's
did discuss that at our head coaches meetings a couple of weeks ago. We did discuss rule changes. So.
Yeah, I'm interested to kind of hear that side of it and what everyone thinks. You know, it's coming in under the player safety, and once you tag something with player safety, it's got to pass, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm just curious, what do you think? Is it going to be impactful? Is it going to do what they're hoping it does?
It's interesting. The first I heard about it, we had a head coaches meeting in Birmingham a few weeks ago, and that was the first time I heard about it. And I think all of us in the room, that was the first time we were hearing about it. And it's definitely can be a game changer in some ways. They were saying that they went back and they looked at the longest games in college football last season, and the longest games were the ones that had the most replay reviews and the most incomplete passes. And I think that's where the whole, clock running and things like that came from in regards to incomplete passes or whatever it may be. So, the first down would certainly change things a little bit, but as a head coach, you don't really worry about the clock on first downs unless it's a 2-minute situation. And that's when it is going to stop, apparently, right in the last 2 minutes of the game, or half a game. And then the incomplete pass thing that they're talking about, that to me is a game changer in a lot of ways. So I'm all for it. I would argue, I know TV pays the bills. I would argue let's have less TV timeouts, and that's going to get us out of there quicker than anything, because those are a while as well to get through all those also. So I think there's certainly things. I'm all for the player safety, particularly with the playoff expanding. And if you play a 12-game season and a conference championship game, and then you play a first-round game in the playoffs, I think it would be 17 games. I think a team could potentially play. I think that's right. It's either 16 or 17. That's a lot of football as well. And then you start talking about games where some teams are playing 100 plays a game on offense and defense, and you do that over 17 games. That is a lot. So I certainly understand it, but want to make sure that we're not just making rash rule changes just for the sake of changing.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think it'll be just be like anything else. We'll all get used to it. Now, you've got a new offensive coordinator who now has to adjust to the rule changes, right? What have those conversations been like with Coach Loggins, and like getting on? Like, does that change your approach offensively at all? Does it change the way you guys think about what you want to do on that side of the ball?
Yeah, no, it's I think you got to think about it certainly once everything goes into effect and how you want to play games. And I think every game is different. You go throughout the week, game planning, putting together a plan. Okay, how are we going to win this football game on offense, defense, and special teams? And I think every week is different. If you're playing Tennessee, who's an up-tempo offense, and you're going to try and match them score for score and run 100 plays yourself, more often than not, that's probably not going to be good for you. And then you're playing a team that wants to slow it down and huddle and use the clock. I think there's certainly strategy things that come into play each and every week. And, for us, I'll be honest, we really haven't gotten into a whole lot of those conversations as a staff at this point. I think that'll be more as we go throughout the spring, and let's kind of figure out over these 15 practices that we have, what our personnel is, what kind of team we have, what are our strengths, and then that'll determine how we're going to play football games in the fall. And then we'll worry about the rule changes and strategy and how we're going to approach that also.
You mentioned earlier that Spencer's, he's been there a little bit, starting to step up and take a little bit more of a leadership role on the team. Last year had a couple of really nice games, maybe some inconsistencies scattered in there. And, I don't know whether all that is necessarily his fault or how that all played out, but it looked like those last couple of games, he really locked it in and started playing some of his best football. You expect that to carry over?
Yeah, I do. Was so fired up for him for the way that he finished the season, because you guys have been around him. He's a great young man. he took a lot of crap last season when we weren't playing well on offense, and I'm not rightfully so, but that's to be expected when you're the quarterback. The quarterback and the quarterback and the head coach, the quarterback and the head coach are going to take the most criticism, and he handled it well. And whatever people's expectations were on Saturday of him, and I'm sure he'll be the first to tell you that he didn't play great every game, obviously. But I mean, I saw the talent and the way that he was working and the way that he practiced, and I knew he was going to continue to get better. And it wasn't always showing up on Saturdays, but we were winning football games. I mean, he's getting criticized, and we're sitting there, I think, at one point 6-2, and we're ranked 25th in the country, and he's taking criticism about not playing well. I mean, it's crazy, but he didn't listen to it. He just continued to work and get better. And in those last couple of games, I think he finally just kind of had a mentality of forget it and just go play and give our guys opportunities to make catches and 50-50 balls, throw it downfield, and let's come down with it. And he played loose, he played free. We've got to do a good job of coaches is looking back and really analyzing, what he did well last season, why he did well with that particular scheme or concept or whatever it may be, and continue to find ways to make him better. And we hired Dow Loggins, like Gabe mentioned, as our offensive coordinator. And Dow's been around a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL and has been around Arkansas the last couple seasons. And I think he's got a great personality and way about him. And he and Spencer have, I think, really connected. And that's been a good relationship so far. And I think Dow will continue to make him better.
So you guys are getting going with spring practice. Tell us a little bit about the roster, man. Oh, maybe do you have any? Now you want to create competition at every position, right? That's the coach's dream. But what are maybe some of the biggest question marks on the roster that y'all have heading into spring ball?
We got a lot. I mean, I was literally our first team meeting in the spring before practice. We were just talking about that yesterday. I mean, every year there's competition, and you want that, but there's some serious, like real competition right now. I mean, we lost 2 starting corners that are going to be high draft picks for us. So we got to figure out who are our starting corner on both sides. We lost both of our starting defensive ends. So who are going to be our 2 defensive ends? We lost both of our starting linebackers, Mike and Will. Who separates themselves there? And then offensively, we lost our top 2 running backs. And what's the pecking order there, how that shakes out? We lost 3 starters on the offensive line that have played a lot of football, including our starting center. So who separates themselves there on the offensive line? So there's a lot, those in particular that I'm excited about as well. Quarterback, Spencer goes into the spring as our starter, but what does it look like after him? We got some young players at all those positions: defensive end, corner, running back, offensive line. We literally lost every single tight end on our roster. Every single one we lost. So we've got 6 new tight ends that we signed either from transfer portal or high school. How does that shake out? So there's a lot of new faces here to go along with some returning players that did a lot for us last season. And I'm excited about the freshmen that we have here and how quickly we can get them ready to play. Some good young talent in this program, but there's a lot of people that got to grow up in a hurry.
Yeah, the freshman I think is interesting. It's wild to think. I still, it's hard to wrap my head around it, because it didn't happen whenever I played, that these high school kids graduate early and come in that first spring. And, I just think the coaching has grown so much at lower levels that a lot of these kids, at least appears like they're in position battles and showing up, and coaching staffs are trying to get them out there on the field. Have you seen the same thing? Are guys showing up more ready to play than years past?
There's no doubt. Yes, they're coming out of high school more ready to play, I think, in a lot of ways. And then from when you guys played in college, the NCAA allows us as coaches to do more with the players when they're on campus, in regards to in the summertime and in the months of January and February, being able to actually do some football activities and meet with them and things like that a little bit more. So that gets them more well-versed. But there's no doubt. I mean, I literally just sit with some guys that I was talking to earlier today about our first practice yesterday. We've got like half our freshman class graduated high school early, and they're here, and they didn't look lost yesterday. There wasn't a moment ever where I was like, all right, that guy's a true freshman, and they stood out because they were just out of place. That's wasn't the case at all. They were very, they were ready to go. Their development coming out of high school and then what they've done in the weight room since they got here in January.
You figured out all the NIL stuff there in Columbia?
I'm trying, man. I think I'm like every coach. Every day I'm learning and about NIL, about it within your own team, outside our facility. It's whether you agree with it, don't agree with it, it's here to stay. So you better figure out how to best utilize it for your own team.
Yeah. And it helps when you guys keep improving, 8-5 season. I know you've got high hopes and high goals. Like what is the expectation? Like, what are you hearing from the fan base? What does your team want? What are you guys saying whenever you go in there? What's the standard?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it all along that I feel like we can win at the highest level here and win championships. When I was here as an assistant coach, we played in Atlanta. We played for the SEC championship back in 2010. So we've shown that we have what we need to get there. And then the resources have done nothing but get better since then. And academics, the city of Columbia, the state of South Carolina, the fan support, the facilities, we got what we need. We've shown it with women's basketball that you can win championships here, national championships. Baseball has won a national championship, and there's no reason why football can as well. But you understand the competition around you with the SEC and Clemson, that you've got to continue every single day, just try and get better and compete to where you can compete with those teams and win enough and win those games. And that's what we're trying to do each and every day. But, we show with the way we played at the end of the season that we can win those games. Now we got to do it consistently. And the way to do that is just continue to develop the people in your program and continue to recruit. And I think I have the same expectations. I hope that our players have. And I know our fans feel that way.
Okay. As you can imagine, a lot of OU fans listen to this podcast, Shane. And after the Kentucky game, there was a very strong reaction to something you said, right? Because you told Rattler.
And that came out like it wasn't like any kind of.
But you had to have known that we just got our asses kicked by Texas when you said that, man. What are we doing?
I know, and
it was 49-0.
It was a night game. I watched that game during the day, Gabe, and I meant like no criticism at. I know how it came across, and I didn't mean for it to come across that way. If OU, if OU had won that game, I probably would have said the same thing in the post-game interview with Cole. I was just making the point that it's kind of crazy that in that game, I didn't say Oklahoma got their butts kicked today. I said in that game last year, Spencer got benched. And here he is 1 year later. It's more the anniversary of that game, not Oklahoma lost today and Oklahoma wishes they had Spencer Rattler. That wasn't what I was trying to say by that.
I will just let you know, I vehemently defended you.
Thank you.
I was listen.
I saw that though. Like people are coming at me. I'm like, dang, I didn't even mean it that way. Do I need to call Joe C and apologize or something? Because the last thing I love OU. I love Norman. Love everybody with the program, but it came across the wrong way. But I understand how it was interpreted a certain way. But I promise, I was really just trying to say today's the anniversary of when Spencer got benched in that game, and today was the same game as well. I'm just glad to know that people were watching SEC Network and watched us play Kentucky that night.
Oh, every OU fan saw that clip, bro.
Oh, yeah. That's great. But, hey, you can't get mad. It's the truth. What are you going to get mad at? You can't get mad at the truth, right? It's right there.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that was wild. But what was it like to kind of view the season we went through last year from afar?
It was tough to watch just because there's guys on that team like Drake Stoops and like Braden Willis and like Jeremiah Hall and people that I've either coached or had great relationships with and on and on and on, or Anton Harrison, who I helped recruit, out of DC and whatnot. So many of those players that I think the world of and want to see them have success. And it was tough to watch from that standpoint just because I'm at Carolina, but I'm an OU fan and wanted to see OU have success. And I really didn't get to see you guys play much. I did see that Texas game because that was a day game and we played at night. And, maybe the Nebraska game. I think I got to see some of the Nebraska game whenever we were playing, but I didn't get to see a lot of it. But, we would – Spencer and we had Stogg here at the time, Austin Stogner, and we'd talk about it and watch games and kind of they'd keep me up to date on what was going on. But I had enough problems here in Carolina without trying to worry about whatever Oklahoma was going through.
Now he's going up to recruits going, Oklahoma, you're thinking about Oklahoma? They went 6-7. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Shane, you're the man. Man, it's always fun catching up, and one more season. You've got one more season of being my SEC team, so you better enjoy it, buddy.
I love it. I'm going to. I can't wait for 2024 when we can hang out at SEC Media Day.
Yeah.
And you guys are taking road trips to Columbia, South Carolina, and all that. That's when the real fun begins.
You're the
Find
man.
some real
Thanks.
golf weather.
Exactly. It's beautiful here in Columbia today. I don't miss the Oklahoma win, so you don't get that for sure. But I appreciate you guys. I look forward to this all the time, and do appreciate you guys asking me constantly to do it, and appreciate the great work y'all do as well, man. Grateful for you.
You're the man. See you, buddy.
Thank you.